We live in a complex and chaotic world. I noticed recently that I've repeated that sentence like a million times since March 2020. Just this week I was filming a commercial for First-Plymouth, and I said we live in a complex and chaotic world, and it struck me that I've said that like 2,000 times just this month. You know, incidentally, I asked AI, what are the two most common words that Jim Keck says at First-Plymouth? And it did its thing, and it said the two words that Reverend Keck says all the time are love and consciousness. Well, I like that. I mean, first, I do just want to talk about love all the time. I feel like all of our problems are helped if there's more love in the world, period. If we can bring more love into the world, everything will be better. My 25-year-old was in town recently, and he said, Dad, you know, I listen to you every week in Florida, live stream, and you just got to be edgier. You got to be punchier in your sermons. And I said, dude, I just want to talk about love. I don't want to be punchy. And when AI said consciousness, it got hold of me there, because you know how fascinated I am that you are a soul, you're a consciousness, and you have this vast subjectivity of your own perspectives, your own feelings, the way you experience life. I think consciousness is amazing. I think consciousness is fundamental to all reality. So AI had it right. And pretty soon it's going to catch up with how often I'm saying we live in a complex and chaotic world. And I say that so much because we are in a polycrisis. That's a word that's become super popular lately. Polycrisis is referring to the overlapping effects of COVID, war, inflation, the erosion of democratic institutions, climate change, synthetic biology, the threat to AI. I mean, on and on, there are these multiple crises, and polycrisis is when you live in the combination of that. And so I want to say to you today, my friends, when the world feels complex and chaotic, it's even more important to hold on to the most basic values, to reclaim again the most basic virtues. You're a good person. You know what I'm talking about. Honesty, gentleness, love, kindness, justice. You know what I'm talking about. And when times are anxious, you can lose hold of your moral will. You're a good person. But if you become fearful, it can overcome that moral will that you have. So now is a time that we must take hold again of our most basic principles. In Ecclesiastes chapter 4, it says that a 3-cord rope is not easily broken. And I want to talk about 3 basic virtues that we need to take hold of again that would create a strong rope that could become a lifeline in these perilous times. 3 basic virtues. First, steadfastness, humility, and joy. If we weave those cords together, it's a strong rope. Steadfast. If that sounds like a biblical word to you, it's because it is. Do you know in Psalm 136, it says that phrase, God's steadfast love endures forever. 26 times, God's steadfast love endures forever. And the key image of steadfastness is that God's love for us is immovable. In Hebrew, chesed, this love that is immovable, steadfast. In Hebrews chapter 6, it says that the steadfast and sure anchor for your soul is the Christ, steadfast in His Spirit. So these are the times where we need to remember the basic values that we hold, like inclusion, love, kindness, justice, forgiveness, mercy. All those most basic principles. Now is the time we must become steadfast and hold on to those. Sinclair Lewis, the great novelist, said that each person must become a castle, steadfast among storms. In stormy times, my friends, hold on to the most basic good values that you possess. Become steadfast. A beautiful example of steadfastness happened in 1860 in Boston. Walt Whitman had written the book of a new form of American poetry, Leaves of Grass, a work of genius. The rest of his life, Walt Whitman was revising that book of poetry. He went to Boston to put in yet another revision. He met with his mentor and supporter, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Walt Whitman and Ralph Waldo Emerson are walking along, and Emerson is trying to convince him to take out in this edition a few verses of Leaves of Grass. He said, because those verses make it clear that you're gay, and you should take them out. That will distract people. And Walt Whitman stopped, turned to Ralph Waldo and said, no, the dirtiest book of all is the expurgated book. That's an old word, expurgate, that means to take out objectionable material just because you feel pressure. Walt Whitman held fast, steadfast, to the authenticity of who he was. My friends, in these times, First-Plymouth must be especially steadfast in our principle of inclusion. In this time where that seems to be under certain attack, we cannot expurgate our core values at First-Plymouth. We must remain steadfast. The world needs it more than ever more. That every human being, their dignity must be respected. Every human being, whatever nation you're born in, or your immigration status, or your sexual orientation, we must remain steadfast right now as a church, so that this can become a lifeline to others. Steadfastness. And if we weave another cord in of humility, we'll be making a strong rope. Humility. Achieving humility in our day and age is hard. We live in a culture of self-promotion, always putting yourself out there. Humility. What exactly is humility? C.S. Lewis said, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. One theologian said humility is a type of self-forgetfulness, where you quiet the ego, and then throughout your day, not everything is about you. You're more attentive to others with a humble stance. Because our tendency is to, like every event, every comment, everything that's happening in the world, we relate it to ourselves. But to quiet the ego. Most basically, humility is when you believe every life is of the same value. See, we live in a time where it seems that some lives are more important than others. You're starting to see it ranked, but a true deep humility is every life matters the same. Just as much as your life matters. If someone else is in peril, their life matters as much. John Wooden, the basketball coach, when he was young, this is pre-World War II, his mother would say, "You're not better than anyone else." And that sounds harsh to us nowadays because we're trying to build up a child's self-esteem. It sounds sort of harsh. But John Wooden said that core teaching gave him the deep value that guided his whole life. You're no better than anyone else. Because he also understood when you say you're no better than anyone else, it means nobody else is better than you. We're equal. We're equal. And that core principle led his life. One of the most famous speeches in American history is also one of sheer humility. Oh, what an exemplar. It's an old speech. It comes from July 4th, 1939, when Lou Gehrig stepped out onto the home plate in Yankee Stadium to say farewell. You see, Lou Gehrig had been the Iron Man of baseball, played 2,105 games straight, just an Iron Man, 17 years. He batted .340 as a lifetime average. Lou Gehrig, one of the great ball players of all time, he had just been diagnosed with ALS. He was going to be dying just 18 months later. It's his last game. He steps out on home plate, 62,000 people, and this is what he said. For the past 2 weeks, you've been reading about my bad break. Yet today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. I've been in ballparks for 17 years. I've never received anything but kindness and encouragement from you fans. He starts this speech thanking the fans, and then the whole speech is thanking everybody else. It's thanking the other players, his teammates, the owners, the managers. This whole speech is about everyone else except him. He thanks everybody. Near the end of the speech, he thanks his mother-in-law. It says here, when you have a wonderful mother-in-law who takes side with you and squabbles with her own daughter, that's something. When you have a father and mother who have worked all their lives so that you can have an education, that you can build your potential, it's a blessing. When you have a wife who has been a tower of strength and shown more courage than you dreamed existed, that's the finest I know. So I close in saying that you might have been given a bad break. I've been given a bad break now, but I've got an awful lot to live for. It's a vision of humility. If we weave together a three-cord rope of steadfastness, humility, and then joy. I know that might surprise you because you might think your happiness is all about you, but joy is something very different than happiness. It's something far deeper and important to the world. Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama collaborated on a book about joy. And the core point of that book was this, that joy comes from living in community and striving to help others. That sounds like church. Joy isn't just about you. Joy is living in community and striving for what is better. C.S. Lewis thought that joy isn't actually when you have a desire that's satisfied. It's the opposite. Joy is when there's an unsatisfied desire to which you are longing, to which you're directing your whole life. He used the German concept of Sehnsucht. Sehnsucht is this idea of a holy longing where you sense there's a better world, there's something higher and more true, and you're orienting your whole life towards that. That's when you experience joy. Oh, we're in a world that needs us to have that Sehnsucht, that desire, that hope for how much better it could be. And then joy. Joy produces energy. And so in this long striving for what's better, you have the energy, joy. My friends, at First-Plymouth together, we're going to entwine those three cords into a strong rope: steadfastness, humility, and joy. My friends, this is a world that needs a lifeline. It needs those basic principles. It needs a tether to what's most basic and true, and we know. And so we're going to stay steadfast and humble and joyful, and we're going to hold fast to those principles. The world needs this at First-Plymouth. If we weave this three-cord rope, it'll be a lifeline.